Hello everyone, Mr. Nacho here, and today we have another episode of Community Builds with Nacho. This time we have a big reason to celebrate since our community has hit 2,000 members. I am very thankful for all of the support, likes, shares, and subscriptions. And this time to celebrate, we are gonna have a showcase of 6 different builds. No one build is like the other. I hope that you will enjoy. I hope that you'll find a build for yourself. And if you have any suggestions or requests for different builds, then go into the comments below and let me know. If you see a comment regarding a build that you already want to see, just upvote this comment since I will be picking the ones with the most upvotes. And I will also just quickly preface all of this saying that the relic choices and trait choices are all personal preference. There are some that are clearly better than the others, like the Fortify or Triage and Regrow, but it's up to you. If you want to change and tweak the build a little bit, then that's perfectly fine. It's up to you. Alright, so let's just jump into the first build. The request comes from the user that goes by AJ42097, and he says, would love to see the strongest World's Edge build possible, horizontal strike focused. I've seen Shin Shots do a crit version and a corrosion version that are awesome, but I wonder if it can be taken further. Great videos. Well, thank you AJ, and let's see what I have cooked up for you. So the build looks like this. We have the Challenger Prime with Juggernaut skill and the Alchemist secondary with the Frenzy Dust. You can change the archetypes if you feel like you are safe enough, because the Prime Challenger perk just gives you an extra life whenever you go down, if you go down, on a 10-minute cooldown, which is quite a lot. And with the Alchemist Prime, you can get some more concoctions and be a little bit more tanky and have some more utility if you'd like. That's up to you. The armor that we are wearing is full Leto Mark II set. When it comes to the relic, we have the Shielded Heart with melee attack speed, melee crit chance, and melee crit damage. When it comes to the weapons, we don't really use them all that much. We just have the Sparkfire Shotgun because it's a good standalone weapon, and with Twisting Wounds on it, we can halve the enemy regeneration in case they have something like the Empathy or the Regenerator trait. Then this works very well. And as a secondary, we have Nebula with Harmonizer. It's always good, and you can't go wrong with this weapon. If you want to maximize the output of the damage, you would go with the Fetid Wounds mutator on the Sparkfire Shotgun. So you would lose some utility, but you will have more damage thanks to the Tainted Blade that we have on our World's Edge, which increases our melee damage by 20% per stack of Corroded. So we can apply one with Nebula, we can apply one with the Sparkfire Shotgun using the Fetid Wounds, and we can apply one with Tainted Blade itself. When it comes to the jewelry, we are wearing the Butcher's Fetish, and this is the strongest one that you can have for the World's Edge. Then, to not run out of stamina, we have the Drakestone Pearl, which enables stamina regeneration during melee attacks, which just allows us to spam the Horizon Strike all the time. Even if we are just at 1 stamina, it will allow us to use the Horizon Strike ability, which is all that we need. Then we have the Brawler's Pride, which is crucial for this build. It increases melee attack speed by 15%, and this is actually quite a lot for us. Combined with the Frenzy Dust, we will be spamming the Horizon Strike extremely quickly. And then we have a choice to make whether we want to go just flat damage or crit route. This is the flat damage option, which is the Burden of the Destroyer and the Fey Warrior Ring. If you want to go for the crit damage, you would go for the Akari Warband as one of the rings, and as the other one you would go with Probability Cord. You would just swap those 2 rings, and you would just need to do some perfect dodges to activate the Akari Warband. But with this one you would get more damage if you can get the Akari Warband activated, which shouldn't really be a problem because this is not a tank build, even though we are at 57% of total DR, but you don't really have all that much HP, and you will not be able to take too many hits before you go down. That's why we have the Challenger as Prime, but then again, you can just swap it with the Alchemist if you so choose. When it comes to the traits, we have Triage, Swiftness, Regrow, Fortify, Untouchable, Flashcaster, Vigor, and Expertise maxed out, and we have 8 points in Fitness since this is all that we had left, and 2 points into Endurance because we had to take it. Alright, so let me show you how the build works in a boss fight. I didn't fully optimize it with the Fetid Wounds and Nebula. I just did damage with the World's Edge, but this was way more than enough to take down Keula. So if you want to, just go and watch the boss fight. If you are not interested, then just skip it, and I will see you at the next build. Alright, welcome back to the next build. This time we'll be focusing on summons, and the build request comes from, and this will be hard for me to pronounce, so bear with me, Yale Karaskio. I hope that I didn't butcher it too much, 1675. And they say, I would like to see a summoner skill damage setup, meaning making your minions hit as hard as possible. I got my skill damage as high as 115% without good fragments, and around 25 to 30 skill crit chance. There's mixed with engineers as prime, but I think I'm gonna swap summoner as prime instead. I've been testing different loadouts to see how far I can push the damage. Okay, so this is what I came up with. When it comes to the skill damage itself, we have 97% without our summons out, and with the summons we have 132% of skill damage. So this is extremely potent. And when it comes to the drip, we have the Crimson Guard Shroud, High Noon Duds, Crimson Guard Sabatons, and Bruiser Gloves. The relic is the Shielded Heart with the skill damage, health, and weak spot damage. The archetypes are Summoner Prime with Flyers, and Engineer Secondary with Vulcan. When it comes to the weapons, they don't really matter as much since we won't really be focusing on them, and we will instead try to make all of our DPS come from the summons. But we have a Sparkfire Shotgun with Corrosive Rounds and Twisting Wounds, we have a Krelax with Tainted Blade, and we have a Repeater Pistol with Healing Shot and Extender. The Repeater Pistol is perfect because whenever it comes to the Summoner and its Ruthless Prime perk, it allows us to just tickle the Flyers and do as little damage as possible, and still activate the prime perk and make them do more damage. And when it comes to the jewelry, we have the Silver Ribbon to increase our skill damage as much as possible. Then we have the Ahane Crystal, since we will be attacking an enemy with the Sparkfire Shotgun and applying a lot of different statuses. Same with the Krelax, we will be applying statuses there as well. Then we have the Shed Stone, which increases our skill damage by 12%. Then we have the Singed Ring, which means that whenever an enemy is on fire, and we will be setting enemies on fire with the Sparkfire Shotgun basic attacks, they will take 10% more damage, and this is multiplicative. And then we have Burden of the Destroyer, which decreases ideal range for our firearms, but we don't really care about that, but it increases all damage dealt by 15%, which is a lot in this case. When it comes to the traits, we have Triage, Kinship, Vigor, Spirit, Expertise, Bark Skin, Ragged, Blood Bond, Fitness, and 2 points into Siphoner, and the build works quite well. It's just basically trying to live through all of the damage that comes your way and waiting long enough for your minions to just chip away at the enemy health bar and wait for them to take down the boss. Right now I will show you the boss fight. Welcome back to the next build. This request comes from Liquid Logic 2089, and they say, love the videos and the Freeman team up with Shin and Chaos. Can you make a build to show how much damage you can get out of Bolt Driver, but one physical damage and one status? I mean, I know you can, haha, but I am just interested to see it. Alright, let's just go right into the build. We have one version that would be purely physical and one that will be elemental. So this is the setup. We are running Hunter Gunslinger with Bullet Storm and Hunter's Mark. If you are good enough, of course, the Hunter's Focus will yield you more damage. Then we have the same armor. We have the Shielded Heart with the range crit chance, crit damage, and weak spot damage. When it comes to the long gun, we have the good old trusty Sparkfire shotgun with corrosive and twisting wounds. Then we have Krelax with Tainted Blade, and we have our Bolt Driver that doesn't really even fit on the screen with Defrag mod and Sequence Shot. Defrag is a purely physical mod, and it has a unique interaction that is not really mentioned here anywhere that actually increases the damage whenever you use it. You don't really have to collect the glitches to get more damage, but it will increase your damage even further, but just using the mod will increase your damage on its own. When it comes to the jewelry, we have the Nightweaver's Grudge and Atonement Fold combo. Then we have Probability Cord, Xania's Malice, and the Archer's Crest. So a very typical Bolt Driver setup. We have Sequence Shot on it as well, which will allow us to empty the magazine extremely quickly. So we'll just maybe need to go through some ammo boxes, but this should be okay. The traits are Triage, Regrow, Fortify, Vigor, Spirit, Expertise, Bark Skin, Handling, and Footwork. 8 points since we don't really have any more. And let me show you how the build works. So whenever you just shoot, you can see that we are critting for 257, but whenever we activate our mod, we are critting for 281. So just activating the mod increases our damage, and it's all physical. So if the enemy has elemental resist, then this would be the perfect way to go. And the next best thing, if the enemy does not have the elemental resist, would be Overflow, which gives us bonus fire rate and reload speed, which this gun really needs more reload speed. And it will also apply Overloaded, which deals shock damage. They're both extremely strong. Of course, the Overflow one would deal more damage, but if you are facing an enemy with elemental resist, then it won't work. So the Defrag mod, even though it's not extremely powerful, it still has some good value. And let's just jump into the boss fight and show you how this works. Welcome back. The next request comes from OG Patterson, and he says, great stuff, awesome thing to do to work with the community. I enjoy more Invader builds, maybe a ranged elusive Invader build designed around having as much Void Cloak up as possible while still being good damage. Well, I think that I had come up with something that would tickle your fancy, and this is the build. We have the Invader as a prime with Shadow perk, which means that casting an Invader skill leaves a decoy for 3 seconds, which draws enemy fire, deal 15% additional damage to enemies not targeting Invader, with of course the Void Cloak ability. And then we have Gunslinger with Bullet Storm. The armor set that we are wearing is Dendroid Mask, High Noon Duds, Dendroid Leggings, and then droid grips. When it comes to the relic, we are using the enlarged heart with range crit chance, crit damage, and fire rate. The weapon that I chose for this would be Nightfall, simply because the Dreadwalker allows you to be even more elusive. We have momentum on it, which is the best mutator for Nightfall, and gives us a ton of crit chance and crit damage. When it comes to the melee weapon, we have Krelax with Tainted Blade, and as a secondary we have the Tech 22 with Corrosive Rounds and Twisting Wounds, again to just apply to enemies that might have some Regenerator passive or the Empathy affix, then this will just halve their healing. Yeah, when it comes to the jewelry, we have the Nightweaver Grudge and Atonement Fold combo. We also have the Probability Cord and Xania's Malice to increase our damage as high as possible. And the thing that will allow us to keep our Void Cloak active at all times is the Devoured Loop. It's a little bit RNG, but I believe that in most cases it should work just fine. When it comes to its rates, we have Triage, Swiftness, Regrow, Fortify. 5 points into strong back to be at lightweight with this armor. Then we have Vigor, Spirit, Footwork, Fitness, and 1 point into Glutton. And the main idea behind this is that you activate the Void Cloak, you activate the Bullet Storm, then you go into the Dreadwalker, and then you just fire like crazy, and it will allow you to get back your cooldowns thanks to the Devoured Loop. Whenever the Dreadwalker runs out, you just need to spam more, use the full auto mode that the Bullet Storm gives you to get back your mod as soon as possible. And it will also give you more chances to trigger the Void Cloak reset. And one thing to remember is that you are playing Invader, so you need to keep your Shark stacks active. And you keep them active by dodging or just running around. So I decided to take a fight to Shahala, which is one of the fights that I think that the Void Cloak helps you in the most, since there are tons of different beams, the projectiles coming at you, the hand spawning from below you, and then there is the orb that just sucks you in. It's just extremely good showcase of all of the dodge potential that the Void Cloak has, and how quickly you can get it back to just keep it on all the time. Let's go right into the boss fight, and I'll see you at the next build. Welcome back. The next build comes from La Bianca Giovanni, and they say, I would like to try a fire-based variant of this build with Talisman of the Sun, Firestone Ring, Hotshot, or maybe Firestorm and Hellfire. What do you think about that? Well, what I think about it is this. I have made this build simply to show off how good the fire damage can be. And we have the Prime Archon and Secondary Challenger with the Rampage skill. When it comes to the Archon skill, you can just use the Reality Rune or the Chaos Gate, depending on the fight. I tend to stick with the Reality Rune simply because it gives you DR and slows everything around you. The armor we are wearing is the full Bruiser set. When it comes to the Relic, we have the Tranquil Heart with elemental damage, range crit chance and crit damage. The main gun is Blackmo AR-47 with Hotshot and Momentum, and whenever it comes to the Archon, it gives us 50% mod damage and 10% mod crit chance. So whenever we use Hotshot, and we will have Hotshot up all the time, we will actually be doing mod damage, which means that we will be getting the 50% increase and 10% crit chance. So this will scale up extremely nice. Then we have the good old Krelax with Tainted Blade to apply Corroded and deal more damage. And then we have the Repeater Pistol with Witchfire and Harmonizer. We'll be able to spam Witchfire and with good results simply because we are running Archon, which increases mod damage, and Challenger, which increases all damage. So the Witchfire and the Hotshot will both deal great damage. The jewelry that we are wearing is the Talisman of the Sun, which increases fire damage by 20% and burning damage by 50%. Then we have the Firestone. You can actually swap it for Xania's Malice if you'd so choose, or the Akari Warband, but this is just fits the fire theme, so this is why I decided to go with it. Then we have the Singed Ring, simply because the enemy will be on fire all the time, and this is just free 10% multiplicative damage. Then we have Probability Cord for more crit damage, and the Stone of Malevolence to get our Hotshot back extremely quickly, and also to be able to spam Witchfire. When it comes to the traits, we have Triage, Kinship, Regrowth, Fortify, Vigor, Spirit, Expertise, Amplitude, and Siphoner. Amplitude increases the size of our Reality Rune and doesn't really do all that much more, so if you want, you can just choose to go with something else. Siphoner is very nice simply because mods tend to do quite a bit of damage, so we will be healing a lot. And Kinship is extremely good simply because whenever we want to use the Witchfire and we walk into it, or we are dragged into it by some boss attacks, then it will deal almost no damage to us. So let's get straight into the boss fight to see how the build works, and I will see you at the next one. Alright, I've saved the best for last, and this request comes from Wisecrack Jax, and he says, I'd love to see a pure dot build just around applying and reapplying the hardest hitting status damage possible. To which I replied, I will see what can be done, and then they specified, hell yeah, thanks dude, preferably without the Sparkfire shotgun, but I know it's amazing for status application, so I get it. Well, don't worry, we managed to do it without the Sparkfire shotgun, and it works extremely well. The build looks like this. We have Ritual Mentalist with Miasma and Archon with Chaos Gate. Then we have the Sinister Totem to be able to increase the dot damage itself. Then we have the Ahane Crystal, since we will have Miasma anyway, so we will just get 20% free damage. Then we have Band of the Fanatic, which increases our dot damage by 25% and doesn't really reduce the effect duration by 65%. So whenever this gets fixed, I would just recommend going with the Singed Ring. Then we have the Timekeeper's Jewel to increase the uptime on our Miasma, and the Stone of Malevolence to get back our mods as soon as possible. And the star of the show in this case will be the Big Bang, simply because it applies the biggest dot in the game, which you will see in the boss fight. We have Harmonizer on it to generate additional mod power for Stoned Weapon, which would be the Black Maw with Hotshot and Fetid Wounds. Fetid Wounds right here, and along with Hotshot, will allow us to stack the Sinister Totem almost immediately, and will do just great damage on their own. And then we have, of course, the Krelax with Tainted Blade for even more dots. When it comes to the relic, we have the Tranquil Heart with elemental damage, mod damage, and range crit chance. The crit chance will allow us to apply the Fetid Wounds a little bit easier and stack our Sinister Totem even quicker. And the armor that we are wearing, it's the Field Medic Mask, Bruiser Bodyplate, Trainer Work Boots, and High Noon Arm Guards. I was surprised at how good this build actually is, so let me just show you with the boss fight, and I will see you for the outro after that. Alright, so this would be all for the build showcase. I hope that you enjoyed it. Once again, if you have any suggestions or requests, just put them in the comments below. I will read through all of them, as I always do. And as always, have a great day.